When my sister Vanessa walked into my wedding venue 30 minutes before my ceremony and announced she was canceling everything because I refused to make her my maid of honor, I thought my world was ending. But when my Marine General husband made one phone call that revealed the truth about who had been sabotaging my life for years, I realized my real life was just beginning. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Alexandra Alex Montgomery, and I am 35 years old. 6 months ago, I married Brigadier General James Jim Montgomery in what should have been the most beautiful day of my life. Instead, it became the day I discovered the true extent of my family's betrayal and the moment I finally learned to stand up for myself, with the support of a man who understood the meaning of honor, loyalty, and unconditional love. The story begins 2 years earlier, when I was working as a senior project manager for Coastal Engineering Solutions in Virginia Beach. I had built a successful career coordinating large-scale infrastructure projects for government contractors, work that required precision, attention to detail, and the ability to manage complex stakeholder relationships under significant pressure. My professional success had provided me with financial independence, a comfortable townhouse near the ocean, and the respect of colleagues who valued my expertise in managing multi-million-dollar construction projects. At 33, I had achieved everything I thought I wanted professionally, but my personal life remained incomplete. I had ended a long-term relationship 18 months earlier when my ex-fiancé David revealed that he expected me to abandon my career after marriage to focus exclusively on raising children and managing household responsibilities. The relationship dissolution had been painful but necessary, reinforcing my commitment to finding a partner who respected my professional ambitions and personal autonomy. My family situation had always been complicated, centered around my relationship with my younger sister Vanessa, who was 28 and had never held a stable job for longer than 6 months. Vanessa possessed the kind of dramatic personality that demanded constant attention and validation, traits that had been indulged by our parents throughout our childhood and adolescence. While I had focused on academic achievement and career development, Vanessa had pursued a series of unsuccessful ventures in modeling, acting, and social media influencing, each abandoned when immediate success failed to materialize. Our parents, Robert and Patricia Chen, had consistently enabled Vanessa's irresponsible behavior while expecting me to provide emotional and financial support whenever her latest scheme collapsed. Throughout my 20s and early 30s, I had paid for Vanessa's rent during unemployment periods, covered her credit card debts when online shopping addictions created financial crises, and provided emotional support during the frequent relationship disasters that resulted from her inability to maintain healthy partnerships. This dynamic had created a toxic family ecosystem where my success was treated as a resource to be exploited rather than an achievement to be celebrated. Family gatherings often devolved into discussions about Vanessa's latest problems and expectations that I would provide solutions, while my professional accomplishments were minimized or ignored entirely. I had begun limiting contact with my family, participating in major holidays and special events, while maintaining emotional distance from their constant drama. The pattern intensified after my breakup with David, when my parents began pressuring me to prioritize finding another relationship over career advancement. They expressed concern that my professional focus was preventing me from achieving what they considered the more important goals of marriage and motherhood, perspectives that reflected their traditional values rather than my personal aspirations. My life changed completely when I met Jim Montgomery at a community fundraising event for Veteran Support Services. Jim was attending the event during a brief assignment at Norfolk Naval Base, where he was conducting strategic planning assessments for joint military operations. At 42, he possessed the kind of quiet confidence and integrity that reflected decades of military leadership experience and personal commitment to service above self. Our initial conversation revealed remarkable compatibility in values, life perspectives, and long-term goals. Jim had built his military career through merit and dedication, advancing from enlisted soldier to general officer through exceptional performance in combat operations, strategic planning, and personnel leadership. He understood the demands of professional excellence and respected my career achievements in ways that previous romantic partners had never demonstrated. Jim had been married previously to his college sweetheart, but the marriage had ended amicably after 15 years when they realized their life goals had diverged significantly. His ex-wife had desired a traditional suburban lifestyle focused on social activities and material acquisition, while Jim remained committed to military service and the frequent relocations and responsibilities that accompanied senior leadership positions. Their divorce had been handled with mutual respect and continued friendship, reflecting Jim's approach to relationships based on honor and honest communication. Our relationship developed gradually over 8 months of long-distance communication, while Jim completed his assignment and prepared for his next posting to the Pentagon. We spoke daily through video calls, exchanged lengthy emails about our professional challenges and personal philosophies, and spent extended weekends together exploring Virginia Beach, Washington, D.C., and the surrounding areas. Jim's approach to relationships differed fundamentally from any romantic partnership I had previously experienced. He demonstrated genuine interest in my career achievements and professional goals, asking detailed questions about project management challenges and offering insights from his military leadership experience. He respected my independence and financial autonomy while making clear his desire for partnership based on mutual support rather than traditional gender role expectations. More importantly, Jim understood family dynamics and toxic relationships from his own experience, managing difficult personnel situations throughout his military career. He recognized the signs of emotional manipulation and boundary violations that had characterized my relationship with Vanessa and my parents, offering perspective and support without attempting to control my decisions or responses. Our engagement occurred 14 months after our first meeting, during a weekend trip to Shenandoah National Park, where Jim had planned a private ceremony that reflected our shared values and preferences. The proposal was thoughtful and romantic without being ostentatious, incorporating elements that demonstrated his understanding of my personality and our relationship dynamic. The engagement period should have been the happiest time of my life, filled with wedding planning excitement and anticipation about building a life together with someone who truly understood and valued me. Instead, it became a 6-month ordeal of family manipulation, emotional blackmail, and escalating demands that tested every boundary I had attempted to establish over the previous decade. The problems began immediately after Jim and I announced our engagement to my family during a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. Vanessa's initial reaction appeared positive, expressing enthusiasm about the wedding and offering to help with planning activities. However, her subsequent behavior revealed that her interest was focused entirely on how she could benefit from and control the wedding process, rather than supporting my happiness. Within a week of the engagement announcement, Vanessa began making increasingly presumptuous suggestions about wedding planning decisions. She recommended venues that exceeded my budget but would provide better photo opportunities for her social media presence. She suggested menu changes that aligned with her dietary preferences rather than Jim's and my tastes. She offered to design invitations that would prominently feature her artistic abilities rather than reflecting our aesthetic preferences. Most significantly, Vanessa assumed she would serve as my maid of honor without any discussion or invitation. She began referring to herself in this role during family conversations and started planning bachelorette party activities that focused on her interests rather than my preferences. When I attempted to address these assumptions diplomatically, suggesting that I was still considering my wedding party composition, Vanessa responded with emotional manipulation tactics that had proven effective throughout our childhood. The escalation continued when I decided to ask my college roommate and longtime friend Sarah Williams to serve as my maid of honor. Sarah had been my closest friend for over 15 years, providing consistent support through career challenges, relationship difficulties, and family conflicts. She understood my personality, respected my decisions, and could be trusted to prioritize my preferences during wedding planning activities. When I informed my family about this decision during another Sunday dinner, Vanessa's reaction was explosive and completely disproportionate to the situation. She accused me of deliberately excluding her from my wedding to punish her for past disagreements, claimed that choosing Sarah represented a betrayal of family loyalty, and demanded that I reconsider my decision to preserve family harmony. My parents immediately sided with Vanessa, suggesting that I should prioritize family relationships over friendships, and expressing disappointment that I would create conflict during what should be a joyous celebration. They argued that having Vanessa as maid of honor was a family tradition, and that excluding her would create lasting resentment and division within our extended family network. The conversation devolved into a familiar pattern where my reasonable boundaries were characterized as selfishness, while Vanessa's unreasonable demands were presented as justified expectations. Jim, who had accompanied me to this dinner, observed the dynamic with the analytical perspective of someone trained to recognize dysfunctional organizational behavior and leadership failures. After we left my parents' house, Jim provided insights that helped me understand the psychological mechanisms underlying my family's behavior patterns. He explained how toxic family systems often designate one member as the primary caretaker and resource provider, while enabling another member's irresponsible behavior through emotional manipulation and guilt-based control tactics. Jim's military leadership experience had exposed him to similar dynamics in organizational settings, where high-performing individuals were exploited to compensate for low-performing colleagues, creating resentment and dysfunction that undermined overall mission effectiveness. He helped me recognize that my family's expectations were neither normal nor acceptable, and that establishing firm boundaries was essential for my psychological health and our future marriage success. The situation deteriorated over the following months as Vanessa escalated her campaign to control my wedding planning process. She recruited extended family members to pressure me about the maid of honor decision, organized family meetings to discuss my unreasonable behavior, and began spreading rumors about Sarah's supposedly negative influence on my decision-making. Vanessa also attempted to undermine my wedding planning efforts through subtle sabotage activities. She provided incorrect information to vendors when accompanying me to appointments, made unauthorized changes to orders when vendors called for confirmation, and shared confidential details about my wedding plans with extended family members who then offered unsolicited opinions and criticism. The most egregious incident occurred when Vanessa contacted my wedding photographer directly, claiming to be me and requesting significant changes to our photography package that would have increased costs by over $3,000, while adding extensive individual portrait sessions featuring her. The photographer, confused by the contradictory instructions, called me directly to confirm the changes, revealing Vanessa's deceptive behavior. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. When I confronted Vanessa about this incident, she denied any wrongdoing and accused me of paranoia and jealousy. My parents refused to acknowledge the seriousness of her behavior, suggesting that miscommunications were normal during wedding planning and that I should focus on forgiveness rather than accountability. Jim's response to these escalating conflicts was measured, but increasingly protective. He understood that direct confrontation with my family would likely backfire and create additional problems, but he began documenting incidents and preparing contingency plans to protect our wedding from further sabotage attempts. His military training in crisis management and operational security proved invaluable as we developed strategies to limit Vanessa's access to sensitive wedding information while maintaining family relationships to the extent possible. Jim suggested using separate vendor contacts that Vanessa could not access, implementing password protections for all wedding-related accounts, and creating backup plans for critical wedding elements in case sabotage efforts succeeded. The final escalation occurred during my bachelorette party, which Sarah had planned as a sophisticated weekend at a spa resort in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The event was designed to reflect my preferences for relaxation and quality time with close friends, rather than the party-focused activities that Vanessa typically preferred. Vanessa attended the bachelorette party despite my reluctance to include her, having been added to the guest list after intense pressure from my parents who threatened to boycott the wedding if she was excluded. Her behavior throughout the weekend was disruptive and attention-seeking, including complaints about the activities, criticism of the accommodations, and attempts to redirect conversations toward her personal problems and relationship issues. The weekend culminated in a dramatic confrontation when Vanessa accused me of deliberately planning a boring bachelorette party to exclude her from meaningful participation. She claimed that my wedding planning decisions consistently prioritized my friends over my family, and that my marriage to Jim represented an attempt to abandon my family responsibilities and obligations. Sarah, who had maintained diplomatic restraint throughout the weekend, despite Vanessa's provocative behavior, finally responded with direct confrontation. She pointed out that Vanessa's behavior was selfish and manipulative, that her demands were unreasonable and inappropriate, and that her efforts to control my wedding planning process were damaging our family relationships rather than strengthening them. Vanessa's response to Sarah's confrontation was explosive, including personal attacks on Sarah's character and threats to ruin my wedding if her demands were not met. She stormed out of the resort and drove back to Virginia Beach, leaving the remaining participants shocked by the intensity of her reaction and concerned about potential retaliation efforts. The bachelorette party incident clarified that my family's dysfunction had reached a crisis point that threatened to destroy my wedding celebration and damage my relationship with Jim. I realized that continuing to accommodate Vanessa's demands would only encourage further escalation, while compromising my own happiness and the foundation of my marriage. Jim and I spent extensive time discussing potential responses to my family's behavior, weighing options that ranged from limited family involvement in our wedding to complete estrangement from toxic family members. Jim's perspective was shaped by his military experience with personnel who created operational security risks through unreliable or destructive behavior, situations that required decisive action to protect mission success and team morale. We ultimately decided to proceed with our wedding plans while implementing enhanced security measures to prevent sabotage attempts. Jim arranged for military colleagues to serve as discreet security personnel during our wedding, ensuring that Vanessa could not access vendors, venues, or critical wedding infrastructure without authorization. The wedding planning process taught me valuable lessons about boundary enforcement, relationship prioritization, and the importance of protecting meaningful partnerships from toxic external influences. Jim's unwavering support and strategic guidance helped me develop confidence in my decision-making while preparing for the confrontation that we both suspected was inevitable. As our wedding day approached, I felt simultaneously excited about marrying the man I loved and anxious about potential family drama that could disrupt our celebration. Jim's calm confidence and thorough preparation provided reassurance, but I could not have anticipated the extent of Vanessa's final attempt to control and destroy the most important day of my life. The stage was set for a confrontation that would forever change my relationship with my family, while revealing the true strength of my partnership with Jim and the power of standing up for my own values and priorities when supported by someone who truly understood the meaning of loyalty and honor. The escalation that would ultimately transform my life began on a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks before my wedding, when I discovered that Vanessa had been systematically sabotaging my vendor relationships behind my back. The revelation came through an unexpected phone call from my florist, Rebecca Martinez, who owned Coastal Blooms and had been creating wedding arrangements for Virginia Beach couples for over 15 years. "Alexandra, I need to clarify some confusion about your floral order," Rebecca said, her voice carrying a mixture of frustration and concern. "I received another call yesterday from someone claiming to be you, requesting significant changes to your bridal bouquet and centerpiece designs. However, the specifications she provided are completely different from everything we discussed during your consultations." My stomach dropped as Rebecca continued explaining the situation. The caller had requested that my elegant white rose and eucalyptus bridal bouquet be changed to a dramatic arrangement featuring bright pink peonies and purple orchids, colors that would clash horribly with my dress and the overall aesthetic Jim and I had carefully planned. Additionally, the caller had attempted to modify the centerpiece designs to include significantly more expensive flowers while adding elaborate decorative elements that would triple the original cost. The person was very insistent and claimed you had changed your mind about wanting a more vibrant and memorable wedding, Rebecca explained. But something felt wrong about the conversation. The design preferences she described were completely opposite from everything you told me about your vision for a classic, sophisticated ceremony. I immediately knew that Vanessa was responsible for this latest sabotage attempt. The floral preferences the caller had described perfectly matched Vanessa's taste for bold, attention-grabbing decorative elements that would photograph well for social media, but completely contradict the refined aesthetic Jim and I preferred for our wedding. After assuring Rebecca that I had not requested any changes and that she should ignore any future communications not coming directly from me or Jim, I spent the remainder of the afternoon calling other vendors to assess the extent of Vanessa's interference. The discoveries were more extensive and disturbing than I had anticipated. My wedding cake designer, Patricia Chen, from Sweet Celebrations, revealed that she had received similar fraudulent calls requesting changes to our cake design. The caller had attempted to modify our 3-tier vanilla and chocolate cake with buttercream frosting to an elaborate 5-tier creation featuring fondant decorations and sugar flowers that would increase the cost by over $1,200. The photographer, Michael Stevens from Eternal Moments Photography, reported receiving requests to add extensive individual portrait sessions focusing on family members, particularly emphasizing shots that would prominently feature my sister. These additions would have required significant changes to our photography timeline and substantial additional expenses. Most concerning was the discovery that Vanessa had contacted our wedding venue, Ocean View Manor, claiming to represent me and requesting modifications to our reception layout. She had attempted to change our table arrangements to create a special elevated platform for the wedding party table, ensuring that she would be prominently visible throughout the reception despite not being my maid of honor. The systematic nature of these sabotage attempts revealed a level of premeditation and malicious intent that exceeded even my worst expectations of Vanessa's behavior. She was not simply expressing disappointment about wedding party roles. She was actively attempting to control and manipulate every aspect of our celebration to serve her own interests and psychological needs. When Jim arrived home that evening from his duties at the Pentagon, I briefed him on the day's discoveries with the systematic thoroughness that I had learned was essential for effective communication with military personnel. I presented the facts chronologically, documented the specific vendor interactions, and outlined the potential financial and logistical impacts of Vanessa's interference. Jim's response demonstrated the analytical approach and strategic thinking that had made him successful in military leadership roles. Rather than reacting emotionally to the situation, he immediately began developing countermeasures to protect our wedding from further sabotage, while gathering intelligence about the scope of Vanessa's activities. This level of systematic interference indicates that Vanessa views your wedding as a zero-sum competition, where your happiness represents her failure, Jim observed. Her behavior patterns suggest she will continue escalating until she either gains control of the situation or destroys the event entirely. Jim's military experience with personnel security and operational protection provided valuable insights into developing effective defensive strategies. He recommended implementing password protections for all vendor communications, establishing verification procedures that would prevent unauthorized changes to our arrangements, and creating backup plans for critical wedding elements in case sabotage efforts succeeded despite our precautions. We spent the following evening systematically contacting every vendor involved in our wedding planning, establishing security protocols that would prevent unauthorized modifications to our arrangements. Each vendor was instructed to verify any change requests through direct communication with both Jim and me, using specific authentication procedures that Vanessa could not replicate. The vendor security implementation revealed additional sabotage attempts that had been previously undetected. Our transportation coordinator disclosed that someone had called attempting to change our honeymoon airport pickup to a different hotel, potentially disrupting our departure plans. Our wedding planner, Jennifer Walsh from Tidewater Celebrations, revealed that she had received multiple calls from someone claiming to be my mother, requesting copies of our vendor contact information and detailed planning timelines. These discoveries reinforced Jim's assessment that Vanessa's interference represented a comprehensive campaign to control our wedding, rather than isolated incidents of poor judgment. The sophistication and persistence of her efforts indicated that she was treating our wedding as a project requiring systematic manipulation and control, rather than a celebration to be supported and enjoyed. The emotional impact of discovering the extent of Vanessa's betrayal was initially overwhelming. I had spent years making excuses for her behavior, attributing her selfishness and manipulation to immaturity, rather than recognizing the deliberate and malicious nature of her actions. The vendor sabotage incidents forced me to confront the reality that my sister was actively working to damage my happiness and relationship rather than simply struggling with jealousy or disappointment. Jim provided crucial emotional support during this difficult realization period, helping me process the implications of Vanessa's behavior without falling into self-blame or excessive guilt about family relationships. His perspective as an outside observer with extensive leadership experience helped me understand that toxic behavior patterns often escalate when boundaries are established, and that my decision to limit Vanessa's involvement in wedding planning had likely triggered her most destructive impulses. Military personnel who cannot accept accountability for their actions often respond to appropriate consequences with increasingly destructive behavior, quote, Jim explained. The key is maintaining firm boundaries while protecting yourself from retaliation rather than backing down to avoid conflict. This insight proved prophetic when my parents called 2 days later, demanding an emergency family meeting to address what they characterized as misunderstandings between Vanessa and me. My mother's tone carried the familiar mixture of disappointment and manipulation that had been used throughout my childhood to pressure me into accommodating Vanessa's unreasonable demands. "Vanessa is devastated that you would accuse her of trying to sabotage your wedding," my mother explained, her voice heavy with disapproval. "She was only trying to help make your day more special, and your reaction has been completely disproportionate to her innocent suggestions." The conversation revealed that Vanessa had presented a completely distorted version of events to our parents, portraying her vendor interference as helpful wedding planning assistance, rather than deliberate sabotage. She had convinced them that my security measures represented paranoid overreaction rather than necessary protection against her documented destructive behavior. My father's perspective reflected similar denial about the seriousness of Vanessa's actions. He suggested that wedding planning stress was causing me to misinterpret innocent family involvement as malicious interference, and that I should prioritize family harmony over minor disagreements about floral arrangements and photography packages. The family meeting took place at my parents' house on a Saturday afternoon, with Jim accompanying me to provide emotional support and witness the family dynamics that had shaped my childhood and adolescence. Vanessa arrived with a prepared presentation of grievances against me, complete with written documentation of what she characterized as my unreasonable and hurtful treatment of her wedding planning contributions. Her performance was masterful in its manipulation of emotional dynamics and exploitation of family guilt mechanisms. Vanessa portrayed herself as the devoted sister whose enthusiastic support for my wedding had been met with suspicion and rejection. She claimed that my vendor security measures represented a betrayal of family trust and an embarrassing indication that I valued outside relationships more than family bonds. "I have been planning and dreaming about Alex's wedding for years," Vanessa declared, tears streaming down her face with practiced dramatic effect. "I just wanted to help make everything perfect for her special day, and instead, she treats me like a criminal who cannot be trusted with basic wedding planning information." My parents' response demonstrated their complete acceptance of Vanessa's narrative despite the documented evidence of her sabotage activities. They expressed disappointment that I would prioritize vendor relationships over family harmony, and suggested that my marriage to Jim was causing me to adopt military attitudes that were incompatible with civilian family dynamics. The meeting became increasingly surreal as Vanessa escalated her emotional manipulation while my parents reinforced her victimization narrative. They suggested that Jim's influence was causing me to become suspicious and controlling, implying that healthy family relationships required unconditional trust rather than appropriate boundaries and accountability measures. Jim observed this family dynamic with the analytical detachment of someone trained to recognize dysfunctional organizational behavior and leadership failures. After 2 hours of circular accusations and emotional manipulation, he requested permission to address the family directly, using his military communication training to present factual information without emotional, reactive language. "I have documented evidence of specific vendor interference incidents that occurred without Alexandra's knowledge or consent," Jim stated calmly, producing copies of vendor communications and change requests that clearly demonstrated deceptive behavior. "These incidents represent deliberate attempts to modify wedding arrangements in ways that would increase costs and contradict previously established preferences." Jim's presentation of factual evidence created uncomfortable silence, as my parents struggled to reconcile their daughter's denial narrative with documented proof of her sabotage activities. Vanessa's response was immediate and explosive, accusing Jim of conducting surveillance on family members and using military tactics to interfere with civilian relationships. "This is exactly what I was talking about," Vanessa shouted, her carefully maintained victim persona dissolving into pure rage. "Alex has let this military man brainwash her into thinking her own family is the enemy. He is turning her against us, with his paranoid security measures and controlling behavior." The accusation against Jim represented a fundamental misunderstanding of our relationship dynamic and the source of my boundary-setting decisions. Jim had not pressured me to limit Vanessa's involvement in wedding planning. He had simply provided strategic guidance and emotional support for decisions I had made independently based on my own assessment of her destructive behavior patterns. My parents' failure to acknowledge the documented evidence of Vanessa's sabotage efforts while accepting her emotional manipulation tactics marked a turning point in my understanding of family dynamics. I realized that their enabling behavior was not based on inability to recognize destructive patterns, but on deliberate choice to prioritize Vanessa's emotional regulation over accountability and appropriate consequences. The family meeting concluded without resolution, but with clear understanding that my parents and Vanessa expected me to eliminate security measures and provide unlimited access to wedding planning information despite documented evidence of sabotage activities. Their position was based on family loyalty expectations rather than rational assessment of appropriate behavior boundaries. Jim and I left that meeting with reinforced commitment to protecting our wedding from further interference while maintaining limited family relationships to the extent possible. However, we both understood that Vanessa's escalating behavior patterns indicated that more dramatic confrontation was likely inevitable as our wedding date approached. The vendor sabotage discoveries and family meeting aftermath served as crucial preparation for the challenges that lay ahead. I had learned to recognize manipulation tactics, implement effective protective measures, and maintain firm boundaries despite emotional pressure and guilt-based control attempts. Most importantly, I had experienced the security and confidence that came from having a partner who understood healthy relationship dynamics and provided unwavering support for appropriate decision-making. The systematic nature of Vanessa's interference efforts and my family's enabling response had revealed fundamental incompatibilities in values and relationship expectations that could not be resolved through compromise or accommodation. As our wedding day approached, I prepared myself emotionally for the possibility that protecting my marriage and personal well-being might require difficult decisions about family relationships and long-term boundaries. The foundation had been established for the dramatic confrontation that would ultimately transform my understanding of family loyalty, personal autonomy, and the importance of choosing supportive partnerships over toxic obligations. The catalyst for change had been activated, and the momentum toward decisive action was building with each passing day until the wedding ceremony that would forever alter my family relationships and personal identity. The 2 weeks following our confrontational family meeting marked a period of intensive preparation that would prove crucial for the dramatic events ahead. Jim's military training had taught him that effective crisis management required comprehensive planning, multiple contingency scenarios, and detailed intelligence about potential threats. As we implemented these principles for wedding protection, I discovered capabilities within myself that I had never fully developed or recognized. Jim approached our wedding security with the same systematic thoroughness that had made him successful in managing complex military operations. He began by conducting what he termed a, quote, threat assessment, analyzing Vanessa's behavior patterns to predict potential escalation tactics and identifying vulnerabilities in our current protective measures that required additional reinforcement. Vanessa's sabotage efforts have followed a consistent pattern of increasing boldness and sophistication. Jim observed during one of our evening planning sessions. Her willingness to impersonate you with vendors indicates she has moved beyond passive interference to active deception. Military experience suggests that personnel exhibiting these escalation patterns often culminate their destructive behavior, with dramatic confrontational incidents designed to maximize psychological impact. This analysis proved remarkably prescient as we developed comprehensive protection strategies for our wedding day. Jim recommended implementing multiple layers of security measures that would prevent unauthorized access to our venue, vendors, and wedding party, while maintaining the celebratory atmosphere we desired for our guests. The first layer involved establishing secure communication protocols with all wedding vendors and venue staff. Jim personally visited each vendor location to verify security procedures and provide direct contact information for himself and our wedding planner, Jennifer Walsh. He explained that any modification requests or emergency communications should be verified through multiple channels before implementation, particularly any changes coming from family members other than the bride and groom. Our venue coordinator, Michael Thompson from Ocean View Manor, proved particularly receptive to these security measures after learning about the previous sabotage attempts. Michael had 30 years of experience managing high-profile weddings and corporate events, and he understood how family conflicts could disrupt carefully planned celebrations. Unfortunately, we see these family dynamic issues more frequently than people realize, Michael explained during our security briefing. Weddings often bring out the worst in people who feel entitled to control or attention. Your preventative measures are wise and necessary to protect your investment and ensure your celebration proceeds as planned. Michael agreed to implement venue access controls that would prevent unauthorized individuals from entering restricted areas during our wedding setup and ceremony. He also arranged for additional staff members to monitor vendor deliveries and coordinate with our photographer to ensure that family members could not interfere with professional services during the event. The second security layer involved briefing our wedding party and immediate family members about potential disruption scenarios and appropriate response procedures. Sarah Williams, my maid of honor, proved invaluable in coordinating these communications while maintaining diplomatic relationships with wedding guests who were unaware of the underlying family conflicts. Sarah's approach demonstrated the kind of emotional intelligence and strategic thinking that had made our friendship endure through various life challenges. She understood that effective wedding day management required balancing transparency about potential problems with discretion about family dysfunction that could create gossip or uncomfortable situations for guests. We need to prepare for disruption possibilities without creating paranoia or tension among people who are attending to celebrate your happiness, Sarah advised. The goal is ensuring that if problems occur, we can handle them quickly and quietly without affecting the overall wedding experience. Sarah coordinated with Jim's military colleagues who would be attending our wedding, creating an informal security network of trusted individuals who could respond appropriately to various disruption scenarios. These arrangements provided reassurance while maintaining the celebratory atmosphere we desired for our wedding celebration. The third security layer involved developing detailed contingency plans for specific sabotage scenarios that Vanessa might attempt. Jim's military experience with operational planning proved invaluable in identifying potential failure points and creating backup solutions that would minimize disruption impact. We developed alternative arrangements for critical wedding elements, including photography, music, transportation, and reception logistics. Our backup plans included secondary vendor contacts, alternative timeline options, and emergency communication procedures that would enable rapid problem resolution if primary arrangements were compromised. Jim also arranged for discreet military police support through his professional contacts at Norfolk Naval Base. While we hoped these resources would not be necessary, having access to law enforcement personnel with crowd control and crisis management training provided additional confidence about our ability to handle serious disruption attempts. The most challenging aspect of wedding preparation involved managing communications with my parents and Vanessa during this period. Following our confrontational family meeting, they had maintained pressure for me to eliminate security measures and restore their unlimited access to wedding planning information. My mother called repeatedly, expressing concern that my wedding preparations had become militaristic and suggesting that Jim's influence was causing me to adopt suspicious attitudes that were damaging family relationships. Her conversations consistently avoided acknowledging the documented vendor sabotage incidents while focusing on emotional appeals about family unity and traditional wedding celebration values. Weddings should bring families together, not create divisions and mistrust, my mother argued during one particularly lengthy phone conversation. Your father and I are concerned that you are allowing military thinking to interfere with civilian family relationships. Vanessa is devastated that you continue to treat her like a security threat rather than your loving sister. These conversations required careful management to maintain minimal family relationships while protecting our wedding from further interference. I learned to acknowledge my parents' concerns without committing to changes that would compromise our security measures, using diplomatic language that preserved communication channels while maintaining firm boundaries. My responses emphasized my commitment to family relationships within appropriate boundaries rather than rejecting family involvement entirely. I explained that security measures were necessary to protect our investment in wedding planning and ensure that vendor arrangements proceeded according to our preferences, framing the issue in practical rather than emotional terms. Vanessa's direct communications during this period became increasingly erratic and concerning. She alternated between emotional appeals for reconciliation and veiled threats about consequences if her demands for wedding party inclusion were not met. Her messages revealed growing desperation and instability that reinforced Jim's assessment about potential dramatic escalation. I have been planning my role in your wedding for months, and I will not be excluded from the most important day of your life, Vanessa wrote in one particularly concerning text message. If you think you can eliminate me from your wedding, you are going to discover that some things are more important than your selfish desires for control. These communications prompted Jim to recommend additional security measures, including documentation of threatening behavior and coordination with local law enforcement about potential civil disruption issues. While we hoped that Vanessa's threats represented emotional manipulation rather than genuine intentions, prudent planning required preparing for worst-case scenarios. The final week before our wedding intensified both excitement about our upcoming celebration and anxiety about potential family confrontations. Jim and I spent additional time reviewing contingency plans while focusing on the positive aspects of our relationship and future together, rather than allowing family dysfunction to overshadow our happiness. Jim's emotional support during this stressful period demonstrated the kind of partnership foundation that would sustain our marriage through various challenges. He provided practical assistance with logistics and security, while maintaining focus on celebrating our commitment rather than simply managing crisis situations. The most important outcome of our wedding day is that we commit to building a life together based on mutual respect and shared values. Jim reminded me during moments when family stress threatened to overwhelm the joy of our upcoming celebration. Everything else is secondary to that fundamental purpose. This perspective helped me maintain emotional balance while dealing with ongoing family pressure and manipulation attempts. I learned to separate legitimate wedding planning concerns from artificial drama created by people who prioritized their own emotional regulation over appropriate celebration support. 3 days before our wedding, I received intelligence that would prove crucial for the dramatic confrontation ahead. Sarah Williams called with information she had gathered from mutual friends about Vanessa's recent activities and public statements regarding our wedding. Vanessa has been telling people that she plans to make a speech at your wedding reception about family loyalty and the importance of including family members in major life decisions, Sarah reported. She has also been asking detailed questions about wedding day logistics and timing, particularly about when you will be getting dressed and preparing for the ceremony. This intelligence indicated that Vanessa was planning some form of dramatic intervention during our wedding day, rather than accepting her limited role in the celebration. Her focus on ceremony preparation timing suggested she intended to create disruption during vulnerable moments when we would be focused on wedding activities rather than security monitoring. Jim's response to this intelligence was immediate and decisive. He activated enhanced security protocols for our wedding day, including additional personnel coverage during preparation periods and expanded venue monitoring throughout the entire celebration timeline. Vanessa's planning activities indicate she intends to create maximum psychological impact through timing and surprise, rather than direct confrontation. Quote, Jim analyzed. Military experience suggests that people planning dramatic interventions often target moments when their opponents are emotionally vulnerable and least prepared for conflict. We modified our wedding day timeline to include additional security checkpoints and buffer periods that would enable rapid response to disruption attempts. Jim also arranged for backup preparation locations that could be activated if our primary getting ready arrangements were compromised. The night before our wedding, I experienced a profound sense of clarity about the journey that had brought me to this moment. The vendor sabotage incidents and family confrontations had been painful and stressful, but they had also provided valuable opportunities for personal growth and relationship strengthening that would benefit my marriage long-term. I had learned to recognize manipulation tactics, implement effective protective boundaries, and maintain confidence in my decision-making despite external pressure and emotional blackmail. These capabilities would prove essential not only for managing family relationships but for navigating various personal and professional challenges throughout my life. Most importantly, I had experienced the security and empowerment that came from partnership with someone who understood healthy relationship dynamics and provided unwavering support for appropriate decision-making. Jim's strategic guidance and emotional consistency had demonstrated what marriage partnership could accomplish when based on mutual respect rather than control or dependency. As I prepared for sleep on our final night as unmarried individuals, I felt grateful for the challenges we had navigated together and confident about our ability to handle whatever disruptions tomorrow might bring. The strategic preparation phase was complete, and we were ready to face the dramatic confrontation that would ultimately validate our partnership and transform my understanding of personal strength and relationship priorities. The foundation had been established for the wedding day crisis that would test every skill we had developed and reveal the true character of all family members involved. Tomorrow would prove whether our preparation efforts were sufficient to protect our celebration and whether my family relationships could survive the accountability and boundaries that healthy adulthood required. The morning of April 15th dawned with crystalline clarity over the Virginia coastline, creating the perfect atmospheric conditions that Jim and I had envisioned for our wedding celebration. The azure sky stretched endlessly above Ocean View Manor, while gentle ocean breezes carried the scent of saltwater and spring blossoms across the meticulously maintained grounds where we would exchange vows in just 8 hours. I awakened at dawn with a sense of profound anticipation, tempered by the vigilant awareness that had become second nature following weeks of security planning and family crisis management. The comprehensive preparation efforts that Jim and I had implemented provided confidence about our ability to handle potential disruptions while maintaining focus on the fundamental purpose of our celebration, publicly committing to build a life together based on mutual respect and shared values. The first indication that our wedding day would test every contingency plan we had developed came at 7:30 in the morning, when Sarah Williams called with urgent intelligence about suspicious activity she had observed while arriving at Ocean View Manor for our preparation sessions. "Alex, you need to know that Vanessa is already here at the venue," Sarah reported, her voice carrying the controlled tension of someone trained to deliver critical information without creating panic. "She arrived about 20 minutes ago with several large bags and has been attempting to gain access to the bridal preparation suite. Michael Thompson intercepted her and is currently managing the situation, but she appears agitated and determined to force her way into wedding day activities." This development confirmed Jim's assessment that Vanessa intended to create maximum psychological impact through surprise and timing rather than direct confrontation during more anticipated moments. Her early arrival at the venue indicated sophisticated planning designed to exploit our preparation activities when we would be focused on wedding logistics rather than security monitoring. Jim's response demonstrated the calm decisiveness that had made him effective in military crisis management situations. He immediately activated our enhanced security protocols while coordinating with venue staff to ensure that Vanessa could not access restricted areas or interfere with vendor activities during critical setup periods. The timing of her arrival suggests she intends to disrupt preparation activities rather than ceremony or reception events, Jim analyzed while reviewing our contingency plans. Military experience indicates that people planning dramatic interventions often target private moments when their opponents are emotionally vulnerable and least prepared for public confrontation. We implemented our backup preparation arrangements, relocating our getting ready activities to the secondary bridal suite that Jim had reserved specifically for this scenario. This location provided enhanced security monitoring while maintaining the privacy and comfort necessary for relaxed wedding day preparation. The venue staff coordination that Michael Thompson had arranged proved invaluable in managing this early crisis without affecting other wedding day logistics. Michael had briefed his entire team about potential family disruption scenarios, enabling rapid response that isolated the problem while protecting our celebration timeline and guest experience. Sarah demonstrated exceptional crisis management capabilities by coordinating our wedding party relocation while maintaining communication with Michael Thompson about Vanessa's activities in the main preparation area. Her ability to manage logistics under pressure while preserving the celebratory atmosphere reflected the kind of strategic thinking and emotional intelligence that had sustained our friendship through various life challenges. The second crisis emerged at 9:15 when our photographer, Michael Stevens, reported that someone claiming to represent our families had contacted him, requesting significant modifications to our photography timeline and shot list. The caller had attempted to add extensive individual portrait sessions focusing on family members while eliminating many of the intimate couple photographs that Jim and I had specifically requested. The person was very insistent about these changes and claimed that the bride and groom had agreed to prioritize family photographs over personal portraits, Michael explained during our emergency coordination call. However, the modifications she requested would completely eliminate the timeline flexibility we built in for spontaneous moments and extended couple photography that you specifically emphasized during our planning sessions. This attempted photography sabotage revealed the sophisticated nature of Vanessa's disruption planning and her understanding of wedding day logistics that could be exploited to maximize psychological impact. Her focus on eliminating intimate couple photography while emphasizing family portraits demonstrated her continued efforts to control the narrative and visual documentation of our celebration. Jim's response involved immediate coordination with Michael Stevens to verify our original photography preferences, while implementing authentication procedures that would prevent unauthorized modifications to our arrangements. The security protocols we had established with all vendors proved essential in maintaining our preferred timeline despite these last-minute sabotage attempts. The morning crisis management activities provided valuable preparation for the more dramatic confrontation that lay ahead. I discovered that the systematic security planning we had implemented created a foundation of confidence that enabled clear thinking and effective decision-making, despite the emotional stress of family manipulation and deliberate disruption attempts. By 10:30, our wedding preparation activities had settled into the relaxed celebration rhythm that we had envisioned for this special day. Sarah had coordinated hair and makeup services in our secure preparation suite, while Jim managed final logistics coordination with venue staff and military colleagues, who would provide discreet security support throughout our celebration. The transformation process of preparing for my wedding provided opportunities for reflection on the journey that had brought me to this moment. The vendor sabotage incidents and family confrontations had been painful and stressful, but they had also created opportunities for personal growth and relationship strengthening that would benefit our marriage throughout our lives together. The professional hair and makeup team that Sarah had coordinated created the elegant, sophisticated appearance that reflected my personal style while complementing the classic aesthetic that Jim and I had chosen for our wedding celebration. The preparation process felt like a ceremonial transition from the crisis management phase into the joyful celebration of our commitment and future together. At 11:45, the relative calm of our morning preparation activities was shattered by the arrival of my parents at Ocean View Manor, accompanied by Vanessa and an entourage of extended family members who had apparently been recruited to support what would become the most dramatic confrontation of the entire wedding day crisis. Michael Thompson called our preparation suite to report that a large group of family members was demanding immediate access to the bridal preparation areas and claiming that urgent family business required immediate consultation with the bride before the ceremony could proceed. The group had arrived with the apparent intention of staging a coordinated intervention designed to force compliance with their demands through emotional pressure and public embarrassment. Your parents and sister have arrived with approximately 8 additional family members who are claiming that the wedding cannot proceed until family conflicts are resolved, Michael reported. They are requesting immediate access to you and stating that they have information that will change your perspective on proceeding with the ceremony as currently planned. This development represented the culmination of the escalation pattern that Jim had predicted based on his analysis of Vanessa's behavior and my family's enabling dynamics. The coordination of extended family members indicated that Vanessa had successfully manipulated family relationships to create a crisis situation designed to force submission to her demands through public pressure and emotional blackmail. Jim's response demonstrated the kind of strategic thinking and crisis leadership that had made him successful in managing complex military operations under pressure. Rather than allowing the family confrontation to disrupt our wedding timeline or create panic among our wedding party, he implemented comprehensive crisis management procedures that would isolate the problem while protecting our celebration. This coordinated family intervention represents an attempt to force compliance through public pressure and manufactured urgency, Jim analyzed while coordinating our response strategy. Military experience suggests that effective crisis management requires maintaining operational focus while addressing disruptions through appropriate channels, rather than allowing opponents to dictate engagement terms. Jim coordinated with venue security and his military colleagues to ensure that the family confrontation could be managed without affecting our wedding ceremony timeline or creating disruption for guests who were beginning to arrive for our 2:00 celebration. The comprehensive security planning we had implemented provided multiple options for containing family dysfunction while preserving the celebratory atmosphere we desired. Sarah Williams proved invaluable in managing communications between our preparation suite and the venue management team, while maintaining calm confidence among our wedding party members who were aware of the family crisis but committed to supporting our celebration, regardless of external drama and manipulation attempts. At 12:30, the family confrontation escalated when Vanessa attempted to force entry into our preparation suite, claiming that she had critical information about vendor arrangements that required immediate bride consultation before the ceremony could proceed safely. Her attempts to gain access were prevented by venue security, but her increasingly agitated behavior indicated that more dramatic action was imminent. Vanessa is claiming that there are serious problems with wedding arrangements that only she can resolve, and that the ceremony must be delayed until these issues are addressed. Michael Thompson reported during our crisis coordination call. She appears to be using manufactured urgency to create justification for forcing her way into preparation activities and gaining access to wedding party members. The manufactured crisis tactics that Vanessa was employing reflected sophisticated understanding of wedding day vulnerabilities and psychological pressure points that could be exploited to force compliance with her demands. Her claims about vendor problems were designed to create doubt and anxiety that would motivate consultation, despite our established boundaries and security measures. Jim's military training in information warfare and psychological operations provided crucial insights into recognizing and countering these manipulation tactics. He understood that Vanessa's claims were designed to create emotional urgency rather than address legitimate concerns, and that effective response required maintaining factual focus while avoiding engagement with emotional manipulation attempts. The crisis reached its climactic moment at 1:15, just 45 minutes before our scheduled ceremony, when Vanessa succeeded in bypassing venue security and confronting me directly outside our preparation suite. Her appearance was disheveled, and her emotional state appeared highly agitated, indicating that her frustration with our security measures had reached a breaking point that motivated desperate action. "Alexandra, you need to understand that this wedding cannot happen today," Vanessa declared, her voice carrying the kind of dramatic intensity that she had perfected throughout years of emotional manipulation and crisis creation. "I have information about serious problems with your arrangements, and I am not going to let you make the biggest mistake of your life without forcing you to hear the truth about what is really happening." Her confrontation occurred in the presence of our wedding party and venue staff, creating the public pressure situation that she had apparently planned to force compliance with her demands. The timing was designed to maximize psychological impact while creating urgency that would motivate consultation despite our established boundaries. Sarah Williams responded with the kind of protective instinct and strategic thinking that had made her an invaluable friend throughout various life challenges. Rather than allowing Vanessa to control the confrontation dynamics, Sarah immediately coordinated with venue security to document the unauthorized access, while maintaining communication with Jim about the developing crisis situation. The moment of truth had arrived, and every aspect of our wedding day security planning would be tested by the dramatic confrontation that would ultimately determine whether our celebration could proceed as planned or whether family dysfunction would succeed in disrupting the most important day of our lives. The foundation had been established for the decisive action that would transform our family relationships forever. The moment Vanessa breached our security perimeter and confronted me directly, I experienced a profound clarity that transcended the emotional chaos she was attempting to create. Standing in the hallway outside our preparation suite, surrounded by my wedding party and venue staff, I recognized that this confrontation represented the culmination of decades of manipulation and control that had shaped our family dynamics since childhood. Vanessa's appearance reflected the desperation and instability that had driven her increasingly destructive behavior throughout our wedding planning process. Her carefully styled hair from earlier that morning had become disheveled, her makeup showed signs of emotional stress, and her voice carried the frantic intensity of someone whose primary manipulation tactics were failing to achieve desired results. "You cannot get married today because I have discovered serious problems with your vendor arrangements that prove Jim is not the man you think he is," Vanessa declared, her voice rising to ensure that everyone in the vicinity could hear her dramatic revelation. "The florist, the photographer, and the caterer have all told me things about Jim's behavior and demands that you need to know before you make this terrible mistake." Her accusations represented a sophisticated escalation of the manipulation tactics she had employed throughout our relationship. Rather than simply demanding inclusion in wedding activities, Vanessa was now attempting to undermine my trust in Jim by fabricating vendor complaints and portraying herself as the protective sister who had discovered critical information that would save me from a disastrous marriage. The venue staff members who witnessed this confrontation had been briefed about potential family disruption scenarios, enabling them to document the incident while maintaining professional composure despite the dramatic nature of Vanessa's accusations. Michael Thompson immediately activated security protocols that would prevent the confrontation from spreading to other areas of the venue where wedding guests were beginning to arrive. Sarah Williams demonstrated exceptional crisis management capabilities by maintaining communication with Jim while preventing Vanessa's confrontation from disrupting the final preparation activities that our wedding party needed to complete before the ceremony. Her ability to coordinate multiple priorities simultaneously while remaining calm under pressure reflected the kind of leadership qualities that had made our friendship endure through various challenges. My response to Vanessa's confrontation drew upon every lesson I had learned about boundary enforcement and manipulation recognition throughout the previous months of wedding planning crisis management. Rather than engaging with her emotional appeals or defending against her fabricated accusations, I chose to address the fundamental issue underlying her destructive behavior patterns. Vanessa, your behavior today and throughout our wedding planning process has been unacceptable and harmful, I stated clearly, ensuring that my words would be heard by all witnesses present. You have attempted to sabotage vendor arrangements, manipulated family members, and now you are making false accusations about my husband in an attempt to control our wedding celebration. This behavior ends now. The directness of my response created immediate silence among the assembled witnesses, as family members and venue staff observed a dynamic that had never been addressed so explicitly in their presence. For decades, our family had operated according to unspoken rules that prioritized Vanessa's emotional regulation over accountability and appropriate consequences for destructive behavior. Vanessa's reaction to my boundary enforcement demonstrated the escalation pattern that Jim had predicted, based on his analysis of toxic personality dynamics and crisis behavior. Rather than acknowledging the validity of my concerns or accepting responsibility for her actions, she immediately escalated to more extreme manipulation tactics designed to regain control of the situation. "How dare you speak to me like that in front of all these people?" Vanessa screamed, her voice carrying across the venue grounds where wedding guests were beginning to gather for our ceremony. "I am your sister, and I have been trying to protect you from making the biggest mistake of your life. If you marry this controlling military man, you will lose your entire family because he is turning you against everyone who loves you." Her public emotional breakdown was designed to create pressure for immediate reconciliation, while portraying me as the aggressor in our conflict, despite her documented pattern of sabotage and manipulation. The dramatic timing, just minutes before our ceremony, was calculated to maximize psychological impact and force compliance through manufactured urgency and public embarrassment. My parents arrived at the confrontation scene during this escalation, having been summoned by venue staff who recognized that family intervention might be necessary to resolve the crisis without affecting our wedding timeline. Their response to witnessing Vanessa's public breakdown revealed the fundamental family dynamics that had enabled her destructive behavior throughout our lives. Rather than addressing Vanessa's inappropriate behavior or supporting appropriate boundaries, my parents immediately focused on protecting her from consequences, while pressuring me to accommodate her demands despite the documented pattern of vendor sabotage and wedding day disruption. Their reaction demonstrated that family loyalty was defined as enabling destructive behavior rather than promoting accountability and healthy relationships. "Alexandra, you need to calm down and work this out with your sister before your wedding ceremony," my mother instructed, her tone carrying the familiar mixture of disappointment and manipulation that had been used throughout my childhood to enforce compliance with family expectations. "Vanessa is upset because she feels excluded from your special day, and you should prioritize family relationships over these minor disagreements about wedding planning details." The characterization of documented sabotage attempts as minor disagreements revealed the extent of denial and enabling that had shaped our family relationships for decades. My parents' refusal to acknowledge the seriousness of Vanessa's behavior while demanding that I provide accommodation demonstrated their commitment to maintaining dysfunctional dynamics, rather than supporting healthy boundaries and appropriate consequences. The confrontation reached its critical turning point when Jim arrived at the scene, having been alerted by Sarah Williams about the escalating family crisis. His presence immediately changed the dynamics of the situation, as his military bearing and calm authority created a stark contrast to the emotional chaos that Vanessa was attempting to generate. Jim's approach to the family confrontation demonstrated the strategic thinking and crisis leadership that had made him successful in managing complex military operations under pressure. Rather than engaging with emotional manipulation or attempting to negotiate with unreasonable demands, he focused on protecting our wedding celebration while addressing the immediate security concerns that Vanessa's behavior represented. This confrontation ends now, Jim stated with the kind of quiet authority that commanded immediate attention from all participants. Vanessa, your behavior today constitutes harassment and deliberate disruption of a private event. You have 30 seconds to leave the venue voluntarily, or I will contact law enforcement to have you removed for trespassing and disturbing the peace. His intervention represented the first time in our family's history that anyone had imposed immediate consequences for Vanessa's destructive behavior rather than enabling her emotional regulation through accommodation and negotiation. The clarity and firmness of his boundary enforcement created a moment of shocked silence, as family members processed this unprecedented response to familiar manipulation tactics. Vanessa's reaction to Jim's ultimatum revealed the true nature of her campaign to control our wedding celebration. Rather than accepting his reasonable demand for appropriate behavior, she escalated to making threats that exposed the calculated nature of her disruption efforts, rather than genuine concern for family relationships or my well-being. If you force me to leave, I will make sure that every guest at this wedding knows the truth about what kind of man you really are, Vanessa declared, her voice carrying the vindictive tone of someone whose primary manipulation tactics had failed to achieve desired results. I will stand outside this venue and tell everyone who arrives exactly how you have turned my sister against her own family and destroyed our relationships with your controlling military demands. This threat revealed that Vanessa's disruption campaign had included contingency plans for public embarrassment and guest manipulation if her primary tactics failed to prevent our wedding ceremony. Her willingness to damage our celebration and humiliate our families in front of invited guests demonstrated the extent of her commitment to controlling the situation regardless of consequences for other people's happiness and dignity. Jim's response to Vanessa's threats demonstrated why his military leadership experience was invaluable in managing this crisis situation. Rather than being intimidated by her escalation tactics or attempting to negotiate with her unreasonable demands, he implemented immediate action that would protect our wedding while documenting her behavior for potential legal consequences. Jim retrieved his mobile phone and placed a call that would forever change the trajectory of our family relationships and establish clear consequences for destructive behavior that had been enabled for decades. The conversation that followed revealed capabilities and resources that none of us had anticipated, transforming the confrontation from family drama into a demonstration of institutional accountability and professional integrity. This is Brigadier General James Montgomery requesting immediate assistance with a civil disturbance situation. Jim spoke into his phone with the calm precision of someone accustomed to coordinating emergency responses. I have an individual at Ocean View Manor who is threatening to disrupt a private wedding celebration through harassment and false accusations. I need law enforcement response and documentation support for potential restraining order proceedings. The phone call revealed that Jim's military position provided access to resources and support systems that could address Vanessa's threats with immediate effectiveness, rather than relying on family negotiation and emotional manipulation that had proven ineffective throughout our relationship history. His willingness to invoke official intervention demonstrated his commitment to protecting our marriage and establishing appropriate boundaries regardless of family pressure or social conventions. The impact of Jim's phone call on the assembled family members was immediate and profound. For the first time in decades, Vanessa faced the possibility of real consequences for her destructive behavior, rather than accommodation and enabling that had reinforced her manipulation tactics throughout our lives. The threat of law enforcement involvement and potential legal action created accountability that family pressure had never achieved. My parents' reaction to Jim's decisive action revealed their fundamental approach to family conflict resolution and their priorities regarding relationship dynamics versus appropriate behavior standards. Rather than supporting reasonable consequences for documented harassment and disruption, they immediately began pressuring Jim to withdraw his law enforcement request, while characterizing his response as excessive and unnecessarily dramatic. "This is completely unnecessary," my father protested, his voice carrying the indignation of someone unaccustomed to external accountability for family dysfunction. "We can work this out within the family without involving outside authorities." Vanessa is just upset, and we can calm her down if you give us a few minutes to talk with her privately. The suggestion that law enforcement intervention was inappropriate for documented harassment and threats revealed the extent of enabling behavior that had allowed Vanessa's destructive patterns to escalate over decades without effective consequences. Their prioritization of avoiding external accountability over protecting appropriate boundaries demonstrated fundamental disagreement about healthy relationship standards and personal responsibility. The confrontation had reached the moment of truth that would determine whether our wedding celebration could proceed as planned, or whether family dysfunction would succeed in disrupting the most important day of our lives. Every aspect of our security planning and crisis management preparation was being tested by the dramatic escalation that would ultimately establish new standards for family relationships and personal boundaries that would shape our marriage and future interactions for years to come. The response to Jim's phone call exceeded every expectation and revealed capabilities that transformed our family crisis from emotional manipulation into a demonstration of institutional accountability and professional integrity. Within 12 minutes of his request for assistance, 2 Virginia Beach Police Department patrol units arrived at Ocean View Manor, followed by a military police vehicle from Norfolk Naval Base and a civilian investigator from the base security office. The coordinated response demonstrated the seriousness with which law enforcement and military authorities addressed threats against senior military personnel and their families. Jim's position as Brigadier General provided access to protective resources that could address harassment and disruption attempts with immediate effectiveness, rather than relying on family negotiation tactics that had proven ineffective throughout our relationship history. Officer Jennifer Martinez from the Virginia Beach Police Department served as the primary responder, bringing 15 years of experience managing domestic disputes and civil disturbance situations. Her professional approach to documenting the incident created an official record of Vanessa's behavior that would prove crucial for establishing legal consequences and protective measures for our future family security. "Ma'am, we have received reports of harassment and threats to disrupt a private wedding celebration." Officer Martinez addressed Vanessa with the calm authority of someone trained to de-escalate volatile situations while maintaining legal accountability. "I need to verify your identity and understand your relationship to the parties involved in this complaint." The presence of law enforcement personnel created an immediate shift in family dynamics that had operated according to unspoken rules prioritizing emotional accommodation over appropriate behavior standards for decades. For the first time in our family history, Vanessa faced external accountability for her actions rather than internal negotiation and enabling that had reinforced her manipulation tactics throughout our lives. Vanessa's response to official questioning revealed the calculated nature of her disruption campaign, and her understanding that her behavior constituted harassment rather than legitimate family concern. Rather than maintaining her previous claims about protecting me from marriage mistakes, she immediately shifted to portraying herself as the victim of excessive response to normal family disagreements. "This is completely ridiculous," Vanessa protested, her voice carrying the indignation of someone unaccustomed to facing consequences for destructive behavior. "I am the bride's sister, and I was simply trying to discuss important family matters before the wedding ceremony. There is no reason to involve police in normal family conversations about wedding planning decisions." Officer Martinez's trained expertise in recognizing manipulation tactics and false victimization narratives proved invaluable in maintaining focus on documented behavior rather than emotional appeals designed to avoid accountability. Her systematic approach to incident documentation created a factual record that would support appropriate legal responses regardless of family pressure or social conventions. The military police involvement added an additional layer of investigation that revealed information about Vanessa's activities that none of our family members had previously known. Staff Sergeant Michael Chen from Norfolk Naval Base Security had conducted preliminary background research that uncovered a pattern of concerning behavior extending beyond our family relationships. "Sir, a preliminary investigation has revealed that the subject has made multiple unauthorized contacts with base personnel over the past 6 months." Staff Sergeant Chen reported to Jim with military precision and attention to detail. "She has attempted to obtain personal information about your service record, assignment history, and family members through deceptive communication with administrative staff and security personnel." This revelation exposed the extent of Vanessa's campaign to gather intelligence about Jim and our relationship that could be used to support her disruption efforts. Her contacts with military personnel represented a serious breach of operational security protocols and demonstrated premeditated planning rather than spontaneous emotional reactions to wedding planning disagreements. The military security investigation also revealed that Vanessa had been monitoring Jim's professional activities through social media research and public records searches, creating detailed profiles of his colleagues, assignment locations, and career advancement history. This intelligence-gathering effort indicated sophisticated planning designed to identify vulnerabilities that could be exploited to damage his reputation or professional standing. Jim's reaction to learning about Vanessa's unauthorized military contacts demonstrated the seriousness with which security breaches are addressed within military command structures. Her attempts to gather classified information about active duty personnel represented federal criminal activity that extended far beyond family dysfunction into national security concerns. This unauthorized intelligence gathering constitutes a direct threat to operational security and personnel safety. Jim explained to Officer Martinez with the gravity appropriate for addressing criminal activity affecting military operations. The subject's attempts to obtain classified information about active duty personnel through deceptive communication represents felony violations of federal security statutes. The escalation from family wedding drama to federal security investigation created a profound shift in how all participants understood the seriousness of Vanessa's behavior and the appropriate response to her continued threats and harassment. Her activities had crossed legal boundaries that required official intervention regardless of family relationships or personal preferences for private conflict resolution. My parents' reaction to discovering the extent of Vanessa's activities revealed their fundamental inability to recognize or address the severity of her destructive behavior patterns. Rather than expressing concern about her unauthorized contacts with military personnel or supporting appropriate legal consequences, they continued advocating for family-based resolution that would avoid external accountability. "This must be some kind of misunderstanding," my mother insisted, her voice carrying the desperate tone of someone whose worldview was being challenged by undeniable evidence of serious criminal activity. Vanessa would never deliberately try to obtain classified military information. She was probably just curious about Jim's career and asked innocent questions that were misinterpreted by security personnel. The civilian investigator from Norfolk Naval Base Security, Agent Patricia Williams, possessed extensive experience with unauthorized intelligence-gathering attempts and recognized the sophisticated nature of Vanessa's activities. Her assessment provided crucial context about the seriousness of security breaches and the appropriate institutional response to protect military personnel and operations. The subject's contacts with base personnel followed patterns consistent with trained intelligence gathering, rather than casual curiosity about family relationships. Agent Williams explained with professional objectivity. Her questions targeted specific classified information about troop movements, assignment rotations, and personnel security clearances that would be valuable to foreign intelligence services or domestic terrorism organizations. This assessment revealed that Vanessa's activities posed national security risks that extended far beyond personal family conflicts or wedding planning disagreements. Her systematic approach to gathering classified information demonstrated capabilities and motivations that required comprehensive investigation and appropriate legal consequences to protect military operations and personnel safety. The federal security investigation also uncovered financial records indicating that Vanessa had been receiving payments from unknown sources during the period when she was conducting unauthorized intelligence-gathering activities. These financial transactions suggested potential involvement with organized intelligence operations rather than independent harassment motivated solely by family jealousy or personal grievances. Agent Williams coordinated with FBI counterintelligence personnel to investigate the source of these payments and determine whether Vanessa's activities were connected to foreign intelligence services or domestic extremist organizations seeking to compromise military personnel. The investigation's scope expanded beyond family dysfunction into national security concerns requiring federal law enforcement intervention. The revelation about potential foreign intelligence connections created immediate security protocols that affected our wedding celebration timeline and guest safety procedures. Military security personnel implemented enhanced screening measures for all wedding attendees while conducting background investigations to ensure that our celebration had not been infiltrated by individuals connected to Vanessa's intelligence gathering activities. Jim's professional obligations required him to cooperate fully with the federal investigation while maintaining operational security protocols that protected classified information and military personnel's safety. His position as Brigadier General made him a high-value target for intelligence gathering operations. And Vanessa's access to our personal relationship had provided opportunities for sophisticated infiltration attempts. The wedding venue security was enhanced with additional military police personnel and electronic surveillance equipment to monitor potential threats and document any attempts to disrupt our celebration or gather intelligence about military personnel attending as guests. These security measures ensured that our wedding could proceed safely while protecting sensitive information and personnel. Officer Martinez completed her documentation of the harassment and disruption charges against Vanessa, while coordinating with federal investigators about additional criminal violations related to unauthorized intelligence gathering and potential espionage activities. The combined charges represented serious felony violations that could result in significant prison sentences and permanent criminal records. The legal consequences facing Vanessa included federal charges for attempting to obtain classified military information through deceptive communication, state charges for harassment and disruption of private events, and potential additional charges related to financial connections with foreign intelligence services pending the outcome of FBI counterintelligence investigations. My parents' final attempt to prevent legal consequences for Vanessa's behavior revealed their complete inability to understand the seriousness of her criminal activities or accept appropriate accountability for decades of enabling destructive behavior patterns. Their continued advocacy for family-based resolution despite evidence of national security violations demonstrated fundamental disconnection from reality and appropriate response to criminal conduct. Please, there must be some way to handle this within the family without involving federal investigators and criminal charges. My father pleaded with Officer Martinez and Agent Williams, his voice carrying the desperation of someone whose enabling strategies had proven completely inadequate for addressing serious criminal behavior. Vanessa made some mistakes, but she does not deserve to have her entire life destroyed over misunderstandings about military information. Agent Williams' response reflected federal law enforcement priorities that prioritized national security over family relationships when addressing criminal violations affecting military operations and personnel safety. Her explanation provided crucial education about the seriousness of Vanessa's activities and the institutional responsibility to protect classified information regardless of personal relationships or family preferences. The unauthorized gathering of classified military information represents serious criminal violations that threaten national security and personnel safety, Agent Williams explained with professional objectivity. Federal law enforcement has institutional obligations to investigate and prosecute these violations, regardless of family relationships or personal circumstances that may have motivated the criminal activity. The comprehensive law enforcement response to Vanessa's behavior created immediate consequences that had been absent throughout decades of family enabling and accommodation. Her arrest on federal charges for unauthorized intelligence gathering and state charges for harassment effectively removed her from our wedding celebration while establishing legal boundaries that would protect our future family security. The revelation about Vanessa's criminal activities and potential intelligence connections provided crucial context for understanding the true nature of her wedding disruption campaign. Her efforts to control our celebration and gather information about Jim were not motivated solely by family jealousy but were connected to sophisticated intelligence gathering operations that posed national security risks. The federal investigation would continue for months, ultimately revealing connections to a foreign intelligence network that had been targeting military personnel through family relationships and personal connections. Vanessa's recruitment and training by professional intelligence operatives explained the sophisticated nature of her manipulation tactics and her systematic approach to gathering classified information. The wedding day crisis had revealed far more than family dysfunction and toxic relationship patterns. The discovery of Vanessa's criminal activities and intelligence connections demonstrated how personal relationships could be exploited for national security purposes, and validated Jim's systematic approach to security planning and threat assessment throughout our wedding preparation process. Our wedding celebration proceeded with enhanced security measures that protected our guests while ensuring that our commitment ceremony could continue as planned, despite the federal investigation and criminal charges that had emerged from the family confrontation. The resolution of the immediate crisis allowed us to focus on celebrating our partnership while recognizing that our preparation and response had prevented more serious security breaches and criminal activities. The arrest and removal of Vanessa from our wedding venue created an immediate shift in atmosphere that allowed our celebration to proceed according to our original vision while providing profound relief from the security concerns that had dominated our preparation activities. The comprehensive law enforcement response had effectively neutralized the immediate threat while initiating federal investigations that would provide long-term protection for our family and national security interests. Michael Thompson demonstrated exceptional venue management capabilities by coordinating the transition from crisis response to wedding celebration within 30 minutes of Vanessa's removal. His professional team quickly restored the preparation areas to their intended function, while ensuring that arriving wedding guests remained unaware of the dramatic security incident that had preceded their attendance at our ceremony. The enhanced security measures implemented by military police and federal investigators provided discreet protection that maintained the celebratory atmosphere, while ensuring comprehensive monitoring of potential threats or additional disruption attempts. The professional coordination between civilian and military security personnel demonstrated the effectiveness of institutional resources when addressing complex security challenges. Sarah Williams proved invaluable in managing the emotional transition from family crisis to wedding celebration among our wedding party members who had witnessed the confrontation and arrest. Her ability to maintain focus on our commitment ceremony while acknowledging the significance of recent events reflected the kind of emotional intelligence and crisis management skills that had sustained our friendship through various challenges. The final preparation activities proceeded with remarkable calm and efficiency, considering the dramatic events that had occurred just hours before our scheduled ceremony. The professional hair and makeup team completed their services while maintaining respectful discretion about the security incident, allowing our wedding party to focus on celebrating our partnership rather than processing family dysfunction and criminal revelations. Jim's approach to managing the transition from security crisis to wedding celebration demonstrated the leadership qualities and emotional resilience that had attracted me to him throughout our relationship development. Rather than allowing the federal investigation to overshadow our commitment ceremony, he maintained focus on the fundamental purpose of our celebration while ensuring appropriate cooperation with ongoing law enforcement activities. At 2 o'clock precisely, our wedding ceremony commenced with the dignity and joy that we had envisioned throughout our planning process. The ocean view setting provided the perfect backdrop for exchanging vows that reflected our commitment to building a partnership based on mutual respect, shared values, and unwavering support through various life challenges and opportunities. The ceremony officiant, Chaplain Robert Mitchell from Norfolk Naval Base, had been briefed about the morning's security incident and demonstrated exceptional professionalism in conducting our commitment celebration without reference to family conflicts or recent dramatic events. His military chaplain experience provided valuable perspective about ceremony management under challenging circumstances while maintaining appropriate reverence and celebration. The guest attendance remained strong despite the enhanced security measures and discreet law enforcement presence, with military colleagues, professional associates, and longtime friends providing the supportive community that we desired for our wedding celebration. The absence of my parents and Vanessa, while emotionally complex, eliminated the tension and manipulation that had characterized family gatherings throughout our relationship. Our wedding vows reflected the journey we had traveled together and the lessons we had learned about partnership, boundary enforcement, and mutual support during challenging circumstances. The commitment promises we exchanged acknowledged both our individual strengths and our shared determination to build a relationship based on honor, integrity, and unwavering loyalty rather than emotional manipulation or control. Jim's wedding vows demonstrated his understanding of the significance this celebration held for my personal development and future security. His promises reflected military values of duty, honor, and commitment, while acknowledging the courage required to establish appropriate boundaries with toxic family relationships and prioritize healthy partnership over dysfunctional obligations. My wedding vows expressed gratitude for Jim's strategic guidance and emotional support throughout the family crisis, while committing to continue developing the personal strength and boundary enforcement capabilities that would protect our marriage from external manipulation and internal dysfunction. The promises reflected growth achieved through recent challenges and determination to maintain healthy relationship standards. The ceremony conclusion with our first kiss as married partners represented triumph over the obstacles that had threatened to disrupt our celebration, while symbolizing our commitment to facing future challenges, together with strategic planning, mutual support, and appropriate institutional resources when necessary. The moment felt simultaneously intimate and publicly significant. The reception celebration proceeded with the elegant sophistication that reflected our personal preferences while providing opportunities for meaningful conversation with guests who had supported our relationship development and wedding planning process. The military colleagues who attended offered valuable perspectives about partnership challenges and success strategies that would benefit our marriage throughout various assignments and career developments. The absence of family drama and manipulation created space for genuine celebration and relationship building with the supportive community that would provide friendship and guidance throughout our married life. The guest interactions focused on positive aspects of our partnership and future together, rather than processing dysfunction or managing emotional regulation for toxic family members. The reception speeches delivered by Sarah Williams and Colonel David Thompson, Jim's longtime military colleague, reflected themes of partnership, commitment, and mutual support that had characterized our relationship while acknowledging the courage required to establish healthy boundaries and prioritize appropriate relationships over family obligations that demanded accommodation of destructive behavior. Sarah's maid of honor speech provided beautiful testimony about witnessing my personal growth and boundary development throughout our friendship, while celebrating the partnership that had enabled continued development of confidence and self-respect. Her remarks acknowledged recent challenges while focusing on positive outcomes and future opportunities for continued growth and happiness. Colonel Thompson's best man speech offered military perspective about the qualities that made successful partnerships, while honoring Jim's professional accomplishments and personal integrity. His remarks provided valuable context about Jim's character and leadership capabilities, while celebrating the commitment we had made to support each other through various challenges and opportunities. The reception celebration continued through the evening with dancing, conversation, and genuine joy that had been absent from family gatherings throughout my adult life. The absence of emotional manipulation and drama created space for authentic relationship building and meaningful celebration that reflected our values and preferences rather than accommodation of destructive behavior patterns. The wedding photography captured the happiness and relief that characterized our celebration, while documenting the supportive community that had gathered to witness our commitment ceremony. The professional images reflected the elegant aesthetic we had chosen while preserving memories of the day that marked both our marriage and my liberation from toxic family dynamics. The honeymoon departure proceeded according to our original timeline with enhanced security coordination to ensure that federal investigation activities would not affect our travel plans or personal celebration. The military police escort to the airport provided discreet protection while allowing us to begin our married life with confidence about our safety and security. During our flight to our honeymoon destination in the Mediterranean, Jim and I had opportunities for extended conversation about the dramatic events that had shaped our wedding day and the implications for our future family relationships and security considerations. The federal investigation had revealed threats that extended far beyond personal family dysfunction into national security concerns, requiring ongoing vigilance and protection. The honeymoon period provided essential time for processing the emotional impact of discovering Vanessa's criminal activities and the complete breakdown of family relationships that had resulted from establishing appropriate boundaries and seeking institutional accountability for destructive behavior. The revelation that family manipulation had been connected to intelligence-gathering operations required significant psychological adjustment and perspective development. Jim's professional experience with security threats and personnel betrayal provided valuable guidance for understanding the psychological manipulation that had characterized my family relationships, while developing strategies for protecting our marriage from external threats and internal vulnerability to guilt-based control tactics. His insights helped distinguish between legitimate family loyalty and enabling destructive behavior that posed security risks. The Mediterranean honeymoon setting provided the peaceful environment necessary for beginning our married life, while processing recent traumatic revelations and planning our approach to ongoing federal investigation cooperation and long-term security considerations. The geographic distance from Virginia Beach allowed emotional space for reflection and healing while celebrating our partnership. The federal investigation developments that occurred during our honeymoon revealed additional criminal charges against Vanessa, related to financial fraud and money laundering activities connected to her intelligence-gathering operations. The FBI counterintelligence investigation had uncovered sophisticated financial networks that had been funding her activities for over 2 years before our wedding planning process began. Agent Williams contacted us during our honeymoon to provide updates about the investigation progress, while ensuring that our cooperation with federal authorities would not require premature return from our planned celebration. The institutional support demonstrated respect for our personal celebration while maintaining appropriate communication about serious criminal proceedings that affected our security and testimony requirements. The discovery that Vanessa's recruitment by foreign intelligence services had occurred years before our relationship development provided crucial context for understanding the systematic nature of her manipulation and the sophisticated planning that had characterized her wedding disruption campaign. Her criminal activities represented professional intelligence operations rather than spontaneous family jealousy or personal dysfunction. The financial investigation revealed that Vanessa had been receiving substantial payments for gathering information about military personnel and their families through personal relationships and social connections. Her systematic approach to developing intelligence-gathering opportunities had targeted multiple military families throughout the Virginia Beach and Norfolk Naval Base communities. The federal investigation also uncovered evidence that our parents had been unaware of Vanessa's criminal activities and foreign intelligence connections, providing some relief about their motivation for enabling her behavior throughout our family history. Their accommodation of her destructive patterns had been based on misguided family loyalty, rather than conscious participation in intelligence-gathering operations. The ongoing federal investigation would require our continued cooperation and testimony about Vanessa's activities and our family relationship history, but the institutional support provided comprehensive protection, while ensuring that criminal prosecution would proceed according to appropriate legal standards. The resolution promised justice while protecting our marriage from future security threats. Our honeymoon conclusion included coordination with federal investigators and military security personnel about ongoing protection requirements and investigation cooperation, while planning our return to Virginia Beach and resumption of normal married life within appropriate security frameworks that would protect our privacy and personal development, while supporting criminal prosecution efforts. The wedding day crisis resolution had provided validation of our security planning and boundary enforcement, while revealing threats that exceeded our initial assessment of family dysfunction. The institutional response had protected our celebration while initiating criminal accountability that would prevent future manipulation and security breaches affecting military personnel and national defense interests. The return from our Mediterranean honeymoon marked the beginning of a new chapter that required careful navigation between federal investigation cooperation and the establishment of our married life within appropriate security frameworks. The 3 weeks of peaceful celebration and reflection had provided essential perspective about the magnitude of recent revelations, while strengthening our partnership foundation for addressing ongoing challenges and opportunities. Jim's military career required immediate resumption of his duties at the Pentagon while coordinating with FBI counterintelligence personnel about testimony schedules and security protocols that would protect classified information during criminal proceedings. His professional obligations demanded careful balance between investigation cooperation and operational security requirements that affected multiple military personnel and national defense interests. My professional responsibilities at Coastal Engineering Solutions required similar coordination with federal investigators, while maintaining project management duties for government contractor relationships that could be affected by security clearance reviews and background investigation updates. The revelation of Vanessa's intelligence-gathering activities had triggered comprehensive security assessments that affected multiple family members and professional associates. The transition back to normal married life was facilitated by enhanced security measures that provided protection while allowing us to establish household routines and relationship patterns based on mutual support rather than crisis management and external threat response. The military housing at Norfolk Naval Base offered additional security benefits while providing community support from other military families. Agent Patricia Williams from Norfolk Naval Base Security maintained regular communication about investigation developments, while ensuring that our cooperation requirements were minimized to protect our privacy and personal relationship development. Her professional approach demonstrated institutional commitment to supporting military families while prosecuting serious criminal violations that threaten national security. The federal investigation had expanded significantly during our honeymoon period, revealing a sophisticated intelligence network that had been operating throughout the Virginia Beach and Norfolk Naval Base communities for over 5 years. Vanessa's recruitment represented one component of a larger operation targeting military personnel through family relationships and social connections. The counterintelligence investigation uncovered evidence that multiple military families had been targeted through similar recruitment tactics, with foreign intelligence services exploiting personal relationships to gather classified information about troop movements, assignment rotations, and personnel security clearances. The systematic nature of these operations required comprehensive response to protect national security interests. Vanessa's cooperation with federal investigators, motivated by plea agreement negotiations, provided crucial intelligence about recruitment methods and operational procedures used by foreign intelligence services to target American military personnel. Her testimony revealed sophisticated training in manipulation tactics and information gathering techniques that had been applied throughout her relationship with our family. The revelation that Vanessa had been trained by professional intelligence operatives provided essential context for understanding the sophisticated nature of her manipulation and the systematic planning that had characterized her wedding disruption campaign. Her activities represented professional intelligence operations rather than spontaneous family dysfunction or personal jealousy. The financial investigation revealed substantial payments totaling over $200,000 that Vanessa had received for intelligence-gathering activities over the previous 3 years. These payments had funded her lifestyle while providing motivation for continued cooperation with foreign intelligence services, despite the personal relationships that were being exploited for operational purposes. The discovery of extensive financial records and communication logs provided federal investigators with comprehensive evidence about the scope and duration of intelligence-gathering operations, while identifying other military personnel who had been targeted through similar recruitment tactics. The investigation results would support multiple criminal prosecutions while improving security protocols for military families. The psychological evaluation conducted as part of Vanessa's criminal proceedings revealed personality disorders and manipulation capabilities that had been exploited by foreign intelligence services for recruitment purposes. The professional assessment provided valuable insights about vulnerability factors that could be addressed through improved security training and awareness programs for military personnel and their families. My parents' reaction to learning the full extent of Vanessa's criminal activities and foreign intelligence connections required careful management while maintaining limited family relationships that respected appropriate boundaries and security requirements. Their shock and denial about the sophisticated nature of her activities reflected decades of enabling behavior that had prevented recognition of serious behavioral problems. The family counseling sessions that my parents attended provided professional guidance about understanding manipulation tactics and developing appropriate response strategies for toxic behavior patterns. The therapeutic intervention offered opportunities for relationship repair while establishing clear boundaries about acceptable behavior and accountability requirements for future family interactions. The federal investigation also required comprehensive review of my professional activities and security clearance status to ensure that classified information had not been compromised through family relationships or personal communications that Vanessa might have monitored. The security assessment process validated my professional integrity while identifying areas where enhanced protection measures were necessary. Jim's military career advancement opportunities required careful consideration of how recent security incidents might affect his professional reputation and assignment eligibility for sensitive positions requiring advanced security clearances. The institutional support from military leadership demonstrated confidence in his professional integrity, while acknowledging the challenges created by family member criminal activity. The legal proceedings against Vanessa progressed through federal court systems with comprehensive evidence supporting multiple criminal charges, including espionage, financial fraud, and conspiracy to compromise national security interests. The prosecution team predicted significant prison sentences that would ensure long-term protection for our family and other targeted military personnel. The civil proceedings initiated by military families affected by the intelligence gathering operations provided opportunities for financial recovery while supporting criminal prosecution efforts. The class action lawsuit against foreign intelligence services and their domestic operatives sought damages for security breaches and personal relationship exploitation that had affected multiple families throughout the military community. The enhanced security training provided to military personnel and their families included education about recruitment tactics and manipulation strategies used by foreign intelligence services to exploit personal relationships for operational purposes. The training program incorporated lessons learned from recent counterintelligence investigations, while providing practical guidance about protection measures and reporting procedures. Our marriage relationship development during this period demonstrated the strength that had been built through crisis management and boundary enforcement, while establishing patterns of communication and mutual support that would sustain our partnership through various future challenges and opportunities. The experience had validated our compatibility and shared values, while providing confidence about our ability to navigate complex situations together. The professional counseling that Jim and I participated in provided valuable guidance about processing traumatic family revelations while maintaining healthy relationship dynamics and personal development goals. The therapeutic support helped distinguish between legitimate family loyalty and enabling destructive behavior that posed security risks and personal harm. The community support from military colleagues and their families provided essential perspective about managing family dysfunction while maintaining professional responsibilities and personal relationships. The shared experiences of other military families offered practical guidance and emotional support that facilitated healing and continued development. The establishment of new holiday and celebration traditions reflected our commitment to building positive family experiences while maintaining appropriate boundaries with extended family members whose behavior had proven destructive or manipulative. The creation of chosen family relationships with military colleagues and close friends provided meaningful community support without toxic dynamics. The financial planning that Jim and I implemented addressed both immediate security concerns and long-term wealth-building goals that would provide independence and flexibility for managing future challenges and opportunities. The enhanced security measures required additional expenses while the federal investigation provided opportunities for financial recovery through civil proceedings. The career development planning that emerged from recent experiences included consideration of how security incidents might affect professional advancement, while identifying opportunities to leverage crisis management and boundary enforcement capabilities for increased responsibility and leadership positions. The skills developed through family crisis management proved valuable for various professional applications. The home security improvements that we implemented provided physical protection while creating psychological comfort about our safety and privacy. The professional security assessment conducted by military experts identified vulnerabilities and recommended improvements that would protect against various threat scenarios while maintaining normal lifestyle patterns. The relationship building with Jim's extended family provided opportunities for developing healthy family dynamics based on mutual respect and appropriate boundaries, rather than manipulation and enabling destructive behavior. The contrast with my family of origin demonstrated the possibility of positive family relationships while validating our decision to prioritize healthy partnerships. The volunteer activities that we initiated with military family support organizations provided meaningful opportunities to help other families navigate challenges while contributing to community welfare and national security interests. The service activities reflected our shared values while providing perspective about our own experiences and continued growth opportunities. The testimony preparation for upcoming criminal proceedings required careful coordination between personal healing and legal obligations, while ensuring that justice would be achieved without compromising our privacy or relationship development. The federal prosecutors provided comprehensive support while respecting our personal boundaries and security requirements. The long-term planning for our marriage and professional careers incorporated lessons learned from recent experiences while establishing goals and priorities that reflected our shared values and commitment to continued growth and mutual support. The foundation established through crisis management would support various future challenges and opportunities that military life would present. The recognition that our wedding day crisis had revealed far more than family dysfunction provided perspective about the importance of institutional accountability and professional security measures for protecting personal relationships and national interests. The experience demonstrated how individual courage in establishing boundaries could contribute to broader security improvements that protected entire communities from sophisticated threats and criminal exploitation. The months following our return from our Mediterranean honeymoon presented unprecedented opportunities for professional advancement that directly resulted from the crisis management capabilities and institutional collaboration skills we had demonstrated during the federal investigation proceedings. The comprehensive security assessment process had validated our professional integrity while revealing leadership potential that attracted attention from senior military officials and government contractor executives. Jim's exceptional performance during the counterintelligence investigation earned recognition from the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Department of Defense leadership for his systematic approach to threat identification and institutional coordination that had protected multiple military families from ongoing security breaches. His strategic thinking and crisis management execution demonstrated command capabilities that qualified him for accelerated promotion consideration and assignment to positions requiring advanced security clearances. The recommendation letters submitted by FBI counterintelligence supervisors and Norfolk Naval Base security personnel specifically commended Jim's ability to balance personal family crisis management with professional obligations, while maintaining operational security protocols that protected classified information throughout criminal investigation proceedings. These endorsements provided exceptional validation of his leadership character and professional competence. My performance during the federal investigation cooperation process attracted recognition from Coastal Engineering Solutions, executive leadership, and Department of Defense contract administrators, who had observed my systematic documentation capabilities and professional communication during security clearance review procedures. The crisis management experience had demonstrated project coordination skills that qualified me for advancement to senior management positions within government contractor operations. The comprehensive background investigation required for enhanced security clearance approval provided opportunities to demonstrate professional integrity and personal character while establishing credibility with federal law enforcement and military security personnel. The investigation process validated my professional competence while identifying leadership potential that had been developed through boundary enforcement and crisis navigation experience. The testimony preparation sessions with federal prosecutors required sophisticated analytical thinking and detailed communication capabilities that proved valuable for various professional applications beyond criminal proceedings. The experience of presenting complex information to senior government officials provided confidence and expertise that enhanced my effectiveness in client presentations and stakeholder coordination responsibilities. The security awareness training program that Jim and I developed for military families incorporated lessons learned from recent counterintelligence investigations while providing practical guidance about threat recognition and protective measures. The program received approval from Department of Defense leadership for implementation throughout military installations nationwide, creating opportunities for consulting and training revenue while contributing to national security improvements. The professional writing opportunities that emerged from our experience included articles for military publications and security journals that addressed family vulnerability assessment and institutional protection strategies. The publications established thought leadership credibility while generating speaking engagement invitations from professional conferences and military training institutions. The consulting opportunities that developed from our expertise in crisis management and security protocol implementation provided additional income while enabling us to share knowledge that protected other military families from similar threats. The consulting services addressed both individual family protection strategies and institutional policy development for comprehensive community security improvements. The enhanced security clearance approvals that resulted from the federal investigation cooperation qualified both Jim and me for assignment to positions requiring access to classified information and sensitive operational planning responsibilities. The clearance upgrades provided career advancement opportunities while validating our professional integrity and personal character through comprehensive federal review processes. The military career advancement opportunity presented to Jim included assignment to the Pentagon Strategic Planning Division as Deputy Director for Personnel Security Operations, a position requiring brigadier general rank confirmation and responsibility for developing security protocols that would protect military personnel worldwide from intelligence gathering operations and family exploitation tactics. The promotion consideration reflected recognition of Jim's exceptional performance during recent security incidents, while acknowledging his strategic thinking capabilities and institutional collaboration skills that qualified him for senior leadership responsibilities. The position offered opportunities to influence national security policy while advancing his military career through meaningful service contributions. The government contractor advancement opportunity offered to me included promotion to Regional Project Director for Defense Infrastructure Development, responsible for coordinating multi-million-dollar construction projects for military installations throughout the southeastern United States. The position required advanced security clearance and demonstrated the confidence that executive leadership had developed in my crisis management and professional coordination capabilities. The salary advancement associated with our professional promotions provided financial security, while enabling us to establish long-term wealth-building strategies that would support various personal and professional goals throughout our marriage. The enhanced income reflected recognition of our capabilities while providing resources for continued education and professional development. The professional development opportunities that accompanied our career advancement included advanced training in crisis management, organizational leadership, and strategic planning that would benefit our current responsibilities while preparing us for future advancement to executive positions within military and civilian organizations. The networking opportunities created through our consulting activities and professional recognition provided access to senior leaders throughout military and government contractor communities who offered guidance about career development while creating opportunities for continued advancement through various institutions and organizations. The speaking engagement invitations that resulted from our thought leadership publications provided platforms for sharing knowledge while establishing professional reputations that would support continued career advancement and consulting opportunities. The presentations addressed audiences including military leadership, government officials, and private sector executives. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.